Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Serling. And we're on a little early today. We have a noon show on America's Day at the Races, so we had to move this up a little bit. But Sarah and I will be able to discuss a card. 3 stake races on today's card. A lot of good action around the country as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Busy day going on with plenty of derby preps and stakes action. And I know that we're covering 3 different racetracks today, so we'll be bouncing all around.
Yes, I'm sure there'll be a lot of jumping around. I'm sure everything will work out exactly perfectly, like it always does.
Always.
Speaking of perfect, head over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code BONUS200. We'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Play through Naira Bets. Bet any track, anywhere, anytime. Through Naira Bets. Track stats, check them out when you're there as well. We've got a money-back guarantee. Isn't that usually in the first race? So I'll have to see what that is. It's the Holy Bull, the Robert Lewis, and or the Withers. So you bet $10. Yours comes in second or third. Get your money back. Opt in for that over at Naira Bets. We've also got a cross-country Big Five. We've got the Endeavor. A couple of stakes at Tampa on the turf, including the Endeavor and the Tampa Bay Stakes. Bookending it, the Toboggan here, and 2 races at Oaklawn Park as well. And what else? We're on 12-2 on FS1 and 2-4. I think it's 2-5 actually.
I think it is 2 to 5.
Yeah, I think it was changed, but whatever. On FS2. So we're covering all the action here. Tampa, a lot of Oaklawn, not all of Oaklawn, as we are off the air before 5 o'clock today. Race number 1. You know what's funny with race number 1 is we show Nina Kay. I think I had a similar opinion to you and a lot of people when looking at this race, in that I kind of thought Nina Kay would be an overwhelming favorite in here and kind of wanted to take a shot with a 5. But every time I looked at any handicapper selections, everybody liked Lottie Margaret. And I started to think, well, Lottie Margaret should not be the same price as Nina Kay. Because Nina Kay, to me, has just run faster races. Now she is coming back on relatively short rest. She has to show that she can get the distance. But she is a Cupid. I don't know why it's supposed to be a big problem for her. She's in pretty good form. Chased a loose on the lead Mischief Lady on a fairly fair track last time. But I just thought if these horses are going to be a similar price, I'd rather take the 1, though I don't disagree that both these horses are obviously far and away the likely winners.
These are the 2, and I didn't want to take Lottie Margaret at first glance either. I was not a big fan of hers last time because she'd broken so slowly on debut. I had to get the mile for the first time, had to break from the rail.
Can show her last
but
race.
She broke very sharply in that spot. Manny Franco was able to control that race, and she drew away from the rest of this field. Your second place finisher did come back to win with a career best Beyer, improving from a 48 to a 64 on Thursday with Lady Wisdom. And I just thought that from the outside, she looked to control this race yet again, like she did last time. She's already gotten the mile, and while I agree with you that there should be some distance influence for Nina Kay on the sire side, she's a half to Z-Bear who, when he got the mile with more distance influence on his sire side, it was because it was an off-the-turf race going 25 to the quarter.
Yeah.
So I don't know that she necessarily wants to go quite this far.
No, I'm going to trust in Linda Rice in this situation, and the sire influence should be helpful. I don't want to get too much into splitting hairs on the distance, but it doesn't mean that she's going to handle it in here. I don't have a big problem with Lottie Margaret. I guess the thing I was thinking about Lottie Margaret is we all tried to be wise guys and beat her last time, and she proved us wrong. Maybe today she's going to burn people's money trying to beat Nina Kay. I really didn't think the others had much of a chance, though Howling Wind was compromised by the start last time out. I'm just not sure even her best race makes her good enough, and I think the only reason to like her is if you have opinion against one of the 1 or 5, which may turn out to be the case.
I tried to make a case for her. Ultimately, I came to the conclusion that she just wasn't fast enough, even if everything went her way.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Race number 2, we'll take a look at Let's Fight, coming up just short last time and easily beating Outsource, the Rick Dutrow horse on the rail. I don't have a big problem with Let's Fight, and I think going the mile, putting blinkers on, I wonder with Manny Franco aboard, Manny will probably try to get this horse a little bit more in the game, and I don't have a big problem with this horse. I just didn't really feel like picking him on top.
He's given himself a lot of work to do in both of his starts so far, but he's also done the work to finish ahead of Outsource in both of those races. They had the same 2 races in common. He's gotten the better of Outsource both times. He outclosed him in this spot. I know that he just missed last time. He's going to be coming from off the pace this time. Blinkers go on both of them. I just wanted the horse that's already shown some speed, and I figured you did as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We obviously saw the same thing here, whether we're right or wrong. We both wanted the horse that figures to be in front in here in Island Charlie, and I'd rather take a horse that was engaged in the pace last time. Sort of fell apart a little bit, the pace. That I just thought this horse would be interesting like you did. I don't think there's anything clever to it. It was just sort of probably the obvious horse if you want to bet against, because I'm not going to bet Outsource to beat Let's Fight. Maybe she will. Maybe he will beat her, but I don't want to bet on that. Asset Management, I don't think it was impossible. I didn't mind the race he came out of. I wish he'd had a little bit more of a trip in there. That tossing ahead at the start, it didn't really affect him that much in there. So I didn't really think that was a big deal, and I couldn't make a case for the horses to the outside. I think you and I saw this race, obviously, very, very similarly.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the lone first-time starter in that race too. So for him to get a little tired, I think it just makes sense that he is the one who has at least proven he can be forward.
No. Race number 3, the Ruthless. We'll start the conversation with Hollywood Beauty, who ran this huge race last time, easily finishing ahead of Volleyball Princess, the number 3 horse. The question is, where did it come from? Now, the obvious answer is, well, freaked out on a sloppy sealed track, got in front in that race, and maybe that was the case. I don't really know what to think, because this horse had never run a race even in the vicinity of that race, and it was only, 2.5 months since the prior start. So a trainer changed to a trainer. It's not as though this trainer is one of these 30% trainers down at Parks. So it's not like you're saying, oh, it's a big move-up trainer. I mean, I want to see it again, especially on a fast track.
I don't like this horse today. I think that if she runs that same race, obviously a main contender in here, I want to see it again. And what sticks out to me in that race is just how poorly some of the others ran compared to their other starts, because you had a lot of no-shows in there that had run well prior to that and ran well following that. And it just seemed as though that was a race where more than half the field significantly underperformed, which tells me that her race where she did so well, she had a lot of horses that weren't running their usual races.
But she
in that
still ran a
spot.
giant figure no matter what figures you look at. So she obviously ran well. Now, I'm not sure. I didn't look that deeply, but the second place finisher ran a 64, ran a 63, and then ran a 60 buyer in this race. So basically ran her race. Third place finisher is the horse that you picked on top, Volleyball Princess, and I'll let you talk about her in a moment. Well, she ran a 45 figure in her debut and came back a couple months later and ran a 59. So maybe you want to dig deeper. The problem is, and I'm not disputing what you may have said, and I believe if you saw those things, I'm sure you did, but it is tricky when you look up speed figures, because I sometimes wonder how deep you want to go. You know, you look at a maiden and you see like the 8th horse came back and it ran a 10 buyer and won the next time with a 43 buyer. Is it really the success that the race was that much better, or the horse just improved after not running? And sometimes the also-rans just don't run their races. It was a sloppy sealed track. The question really is, can we trust the horse on a dry track? And who is Hollywood Beauty? Is she the 79 buyer she ran last time? Is she even a 73? You know, that figure.
Is she a 65?
Right, or is she closer to those figures she ran before, which make her the longest shot on the board in this race?
Right, and looking just briefly, last place finisher, one with a 68 before that, then one with a 59 after, second to last 67 prior, a win, 58 before that. So
well, horses may not have handled the track that day also,
right.
But she did run big.
She did.
I don't think anybody that ran badly was going to beat her. I don't think it changes the race that she ran.
I think it just changes who she ended up beating, but you're absolutely right. The top 3, they ran their race that day, and it wasn't that different from what they had done prior or after.
So why is Volleyball Princess going to suddenly change the name of the tune of the game?
She needs to have Hollywood Beauty not run that race that she did last time, but her debut was very productive. She had several horses come out of there to improve. The second place finisher improved, third place finisher improved, the fifth place finisher improved out of that spot as well. And in that race for her debut, it's not as though she was lacking room. It's that the rider was going for a spot that didn't really exist between horses, so then she had to shift ground and go up the inside. And then Hollywood Beauty is so far in front in that Parks Future Star Stakes that you don't really see what's going on behind her, but she was actually shifted out several paths by the horse that ended up defeating her for second in there. I just hope that Hollywood Beauty isn't going to run that race and that she's the one that I want out of there that still did some running while wide, handled both tracks fast and the sloppy sealed surface last time, and can at least sit close to whatever pace may develop.
She handled the surface 2 back, but she ran a race that will make her last in here, right? I mean, you can't possibly think she's competitive off her debut, can you?
No, of course not, but I'm saying it's been a productive race with several horses improving to run faster
she
out of there.
improved too, but she's a big price. I wish her the best of luck with her. Listen, a lot of horses win that I don't see as well. We'll take a look at Moonlit Drive, who I did pick, who is the favorite in the morning line. And, I thought this was a race day that the rail it was a benefit to be on the rail. This horse ran extremely well to win here. She ran down a horse that was sort of loose on the front end and really ran to beat her. I know the race didn't come up that fast, but it came up fast enough. Obviously, she has a big pedigree, and it feels to me, and it's a moto selection, you're talking about a horse that's the favorite, but I know this was a horse that really ran here. She really came after that horse to win. It's not like anybody else was making up ground. She was, at the very least, a little bit against the racetrack in here, and she got the job done, and these are the kind of horses I like, and I just think she's probably pretty good, and I'm not sure anybody in here is that good.
Well, and you say maybe it wasn't that fast a race, but if you take away Hollywood Beauty's last and some of the prior races for Winning You're In, it's fast enough for sure.
Well, that's the way I feel, and I don't really like Winning You're In. We'll show, I think, no, we're going to show her win at Gulfstream 3 back, but it's her last race that I kind of wanted to talk about. I don't know if people remembered. The only reason I remember is that we covered it on the air. Lynn's Milky Way, the horse finished second, set a wicked pace off a maiden claiming win, and this horse had just a beautiful trip behind her.
She did.
Loomed up outside of her coming the stretch like she was just going to go roll on by, and she couldn't even get close to her, suggesting she has a real problem finishing at 7 furlongs to me. And while the winner made a big run to get it done, she benefited from the pace. She was probably also best, but this horse had everything go her own way in there, and frankly, she ran pretty poorly, all things considered. She should have run a lot better. I don't know what kind of setup she could get, and I really start to wonder, is this a horse that's kind of her best going much shorter?
Well, and what happened from the faster races that she was running as a 2-year-old early on, because she's absolutely declined since those 2 big numbers. And let's say those big numbers, maybe you take them down a notch, but
why? She ran them.
Right, but still, she's just not doing the same kind of running that she did in either of those races, and it seems as though she was very purposely guided several times to have an inside path in some of those races rather than rally outside, which she does get today. I just don't see her getting the distance, and I don't like that she's regressed so much off of what she showed early on.
I agree. She was very precocious out of on the jump, and then she comes back, and you're right. It's a good point. She's just really lost what seemed to be her best form. That's the Ruthless race number 3. Race number 4 was the one race that was affected by scratches in here with a couple of players coming out. I assume you're going to try to make the number 4 Dashing Della wire the field.
That's pretty much it. Jose Lezcano was aggressive with her to get the win. 2 back. She's been aggressively ridden over her last couple of starts. This is an easier spot than she was in last time out, and she's just the one that has at least shown some propensity to have some forward position in here, because I just didn't want to take Poseidon's Mist on top after she's making this big drop in class to the lowest level of her career.
I hear you. I think we both picked Flag Woman, who ended up being scratched. I hear you with the 4. I think that the 1 is going to win if she shows up, but I think that's obviously a reasonable question of whether or not you can really trust her to show up after her last debacle. But I'm going to, I do think there's a possibility the rail was off on January 4th, so maybe she was down a part of the track you didn't want to be on. She comes back. I'm not going to try to beat her, but I have no problem with somebody who has reservations on a horse that is going to be favored, as you say. The 4 is going to be the speed. I didn't really have much to say about anybody else.
Yeah, she just inherits favoritism now, but she makes a lot of sense, facing much better.
Yep. See what happens in race number 4, which is down to 4 right now. Race number 5, we'll take a break after race number 5. A lot of form in race number 5, huh?
Yeah. This is, I think, the most difficult race on the card for me to have to end up picking the favorite.
Well, I think when you start taking this horse apart, she might just be a lot better than these horses. I felt like looking at this race, I don't think either one of us are going to go out on a limb and say we think this horse can't lose.
$25,000 maiden
But you start to look through, and I found that maybe she's actually a little bit better than she looks. Heavenly Light improved 12 points. The horse that won last time. The 3rd-place finisher improved 13 points. The 5th-place finisher ran a 48, then a 28 or 29, and 29 in this race, then a 41 the next time.
Yeah.
So there is an argument that the last race is closer to a 40-ish, which puts it in line with the 2 prior races. And you've got a horse that may have run 3 figures in a row that ran 40s, against a field it looks like they're struggling to run 20s.
Right.
So I think the more you dig into this horse, I think there's just a chance she's just a lot better than these horses.
And I was looking a lot at the first time starter towards the inside broken zipper to just look for somebody else, but there wasn't enough to say this is going to be the one, though this horse may run very well in this spot.
You love those Mr. Monomoys.
I really
burning
do.
up the ground.
Yeah, I think he's yet to have a winner.
I think he's. I think he's.
0 for
I
11,
think he's suffering from being called Mr. Monomoy in the shadow
no one can
of
live
Monomoy
up
Girl,
to Monomoy
right?
Girl, come on.
Right. It's also a little bit more turf. I mean, listen,
is.
I like you, I wouldn't be shocked by a first-time starter winning this
Yeah.
race, but I don't know.
Yeah, she's just been keeping so much better company, Dynamite Diamonds, and this trainer does not have stats that jump off the page at Naira, but looking at those horses that with the 2 for 47, only one of those was favored. Only 2 of them were 2 to 1 and under.
Right, you're talking about a horse that's been a huge price every time she's running because she's over her head. And, I know you're not, probably it's a little before your time, but Richie's World Stable, people that follow owners, they've had some put-over horses over the years with a lot of different trainers at different times. But, I mean, I just, like, you've got the 3-second.
What happened last time? That's the problem with this horse.
I have no confidence. Horse come back in 7 days off a bad performance last time out. I mean, I put Royal Event second for Carlos Martin because at least the horse is dropping down, and Carlos' horse has been running well lately. So I thought maybe on the drop down I'd use the horse, but I'm not going to. I don't have a strong opinion on anybody in
I think it's hard to have a strong opinion here, for sure.
Don't disagree. We'll take a break. We'll be back with the late pick 4, including 2 stakes, starting out with Toboggan.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NairaBets.com.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Bodway and Andy Serling. Race number 6, Toboggan, and as Sarah just mentioned to me, Gunnet was a semi-late scratch from this race. Not a horse that was necessarily going to affect the pace, and a horse that obviously was going to be a long shot in here. And this comes up a very, very strong race. I wanted to start with the 3 that come out of the Gravesend and show the start of the race because a Full Moon Madness was legitimately unlucky. I mean, some of it was his own doing, and then he broke a little bit slow. He's the 2 horse. But after that, I mean, he really gets pinballed around and things get tight between. And you got to give him credit. It didn't seem to bother him at all. And he ends up sort of chasing inside the whole way. And I actually thought he probably ran the best race. The other question for you is, do you think that Maximum Meridius is hurt by drawing the inside? Because it kind of puts him under the gun with the presence of Nelson Avenue.
Well, I don't think he's necessarily hurt, but I think that he's hurt by trying to get 7 furlongs for the first time with a legitimate other pace player that's to his outside who's in all
he's
likelihood.
run 7 furlongs before. He's run it a couple
Has he won at 7 furlongs?
No, but he's run it. He's run 7 furlongs. I mean, he ran second to Bayshore.
Trying to win at 7 furlongs with legitimate other pace in here when that pace is drawn towards his outside. And just looking at Full Moon Madness, when you don't see the head-on of that race, it doesn't really seem to impact him that much. I completely agree, but there is legitimate bumping between horses where he did have some trouble that just didn't seem to phase him. So I do like that for him. I just thought that Running Son of a Gun was the one who would improve with the added distance.
Yeah, for me, the argument for Running Son of a Gun is that he was 3-2 against that field last time. He ran fine. And now today you're going to get 3 times the price. He's going to be in the 4 to 5 to 1 range. So I think from a value standpoint, he's probably the right one. It's not like he ran badly last time. I didn't put him in the top 4. I had him 5th. But I could see him winning this race, and I think there is an argument that he might be the one that provides the best value. Full Moon Madness is now completely exposed.
Yeah.
And listen, he has really improved. But did he take a step forward in the mud also last time? And the other problem is he doesn't have the fig that rates to win this race. He's still running low 90s, whereas other horses have shown they can run faster figs. And I wonder if at the end of the day he's ultimately going to be good enough.
Well, and he doesn't have the same type of back class when you dig into some of these others, what they've done in the past and who they've been competitive against. And he could be the one that is on the rise now as he's had limited chances on the racetrack compared to them. But as you said, he's going to be a shorter price. He's completely exposed, and everyone sees what we did last time, where he still ran his race and had that
Right. If you bet him
recency.
last time, you kind of took a lousy beat at almost 8-1, and now you're going to get 3 to 4-1. It is kind of cool that his half sister is running the Ruthless a little
Yeah.
bit earlier, and there's a potential for the sister and brother, half sister and brother, to win races, stake races on the same card. This race came a very tough race. We'll take a look at Coastal Mission beating Nelson Avenue in the 49er, and I have absolutely no argument with you. Coastal Mission is the horse to beat in this race. He's the one who has the overall best resume, I think.
He's just a model of consistency. I was glad that he finally got his graded stakes victory on this circuit. The pace seems to set up for him where he can be close but doesn't need to be involved with whatever Maximus Meridius and Nelson Avenue want to do early in here. He's beaten several of these at different times in his career. Then
Run with
he
good
didn't
horses,
even, he didn't
too.
even run that badly in the Cigar Mile.
He never
finishing
runs
fourth.
badly.
Yeah.
He never runs badly. I mean, he is kind of an amazing horse.
It's pretty incredible, and also just looking at this distance, what he's done. I know that he was in some mile races, but 7 for 10, 100% in the money at 7 furlongs. I mean, he's just so reliable in here, and
He's
I
great.
just thought he set up to sit a very good trip.
I love him. I just think he's such a cool horse, and I love horses like this. His sire, Great Notion, I think he may have won the King's Bishop, now Alan Jerkins, when Ghost Zapper had this crazy trip and finished third. Or he finished second, and I bet him finishing second. He was definitely, I'm almost
Well,
sure
we can find
he
out.
was 1, 2, 3. Look, at it was the 2003 King's Bishop. And
Let's see.
yeah,
here.
you don't see his name that often. This has got to be his best.
He finished second.
project.
At
Finished
a big
second, yeah.
price,
Who won
yep.
the race? Yeah, I bet him in there.
Valid video.
Yeah, it was a super gold rail, and Ghost Zapper had Drew Post like 13 in the race and was literally 6 or 7 wide around the racetrack on a super gold rail and lost by 2 necks. And I remember he came back in the Vosburg. First of all, I bet him at 24-1. My friend Wayne and I got 24-1 on him in future bets in the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Nice.
He runs in the Vosburg, where he actually wasn't even favored. I think he paid 860. I don't think he was in the picture top of the stretch. He won by 6.5.
Yeah.
He was Ghost Zapper, he was the goods. Anyway, I don't disagree with you. I also think that Nelson Avenue has run well. His last race does look like a wet track aberration. So as far as Castle Chaos, who's going to be the biggest price in here, we'll take a look at him finishing second in the Carter. I don't love this horse, but I just started looking and I thought, Coastal Mission is going to be a short price. You like him, everybody likes him, and I don't disagree at all. He's the horse to beat. I have no argument at all. But I was going to pick it 4-3, and I thought if I'm going to pick the 3 second, why don't I put him on top of the price? Because if he runs a race like he ran the Carter, he can win this race. And you look at his races before that, they were all good enough to win this race. Now, clearly he went the wrong way after that. His Met wasn't terrible, all things considered, but then he ran badly up in Saratoga in 2 starts. Does he not like Saratogas? He tailed off. Did something go wrong? I don't know. But to see him come back for Rob Falcone in a spot like this feels like he still thinks he's doing well enough because he kind of looks foolish if this horse trails the field in here. So I thought, you know what? All he's got to do is get back to any number of those races before the Met Mile, and pretty much all but one of them could easily win this race, and he's going to be a price. So I thought I'd take a shot with him as a small upsetter in this field.
He has the races. He wasn't for me, but I can absolutely see what you're saying.
He may be a finished product. I have no argument with that.
Yeah, it's the time to find out at prices now.
That's the way I kind of looked at it. Race number 7 is the Withers. And before you laugh at the Withers, it did produce a Preakness winner 2 years ago. Now, I don't know that we're looking at a Triple Crown winning horse in here, but I do think it's a fun race. You and I were talking a little bit before we came on about who is going to be favored here. Now, oddly, I put Mo Quality's race first, and we'll take a look at the Smarty Jones. You think Mo Quality is going to take a lot of money. I think Captain Cook is going to be under 2-1 in here. Why don't you talk about what you think about Mo Quality's race?
I liked him last time. He took a lot of money in this race in the Smarty Jones, and I know that the morning line at Oaklawn versus our morning line maker, you see more of a separation down in Hot Springs than you do here. But I thought he ran well behind Cole Battle, who he's one that really adapted to this race when nobody really wanted to go in here. Mo Quality was the one who sat in the stalking position that he kind of inherited. I thought his maiden win was decent. I thought that he handled the stretch out. I know that he's the one that's shipping in, but he's been facing some good horses, and one that I think several are seriously considering to be a legitimate contender on the road to the Kentucky Derby so far.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to root for Cole Battle. I think it's cool, the low-profile connections, the story's fun. that was a funny race because there was significant speed in there,
Nobody wanted to
including
go.
the third place finisher, and nobody went, and the pace was crazy, crazy slow. Basically, Cole Battle did a swale and closed off his own fractions in winning that race.
Right.
How he was up front in there, I mean, his rider rode well and others
It's
rode
just an
badly.
indictment on everyone
But
else.
this horse had a pretty good trip sitting on that pace, and I'm a little bit circumspect of that race. I could be wrong, and you could be right about it. I'm not sure. I'm not saying I'm sure it was a bad race. Obviously, the horse can win in here. But I got a feeling this horse was carried along by the dynamics of the race and finishing just ahead of Kale's Angel, who did win a sprint in next start a couple weeks later, but ran 7 Beyer points lower.
And was very
had run
lucky
a
to
fast
win.
race, shouldn't have won. It was a poor ride on another horse, that enabled the horse to win. So I'm a little bit worried. Now, you're right. The race 2 back is fast enough to win here, but it was a sprint.
Right.
I don't know what to do with it. I could see him winning, and I could see him being fool's gold here.
Yeah, and I also look at that Smarty Jones, and while Cole Battle had to adapt different tactics, he closed in the start prior to that in that springboard mile. I think the number and the regression, it's probably because Cole Battle was able to set such soft
But
fractions.
he was on the pace, so he
Right.
wasn't hurt by it. I don't know. I think the horse to beat is the 6, Captain Cook. We'll take a look at his maiden win. The problem with him is it's a very sprinty pedigree. And you wonder about the 1 1/8, and you feel a little bit like Rick Dutrow sees this as an opportunity to find out if this is a horse that wants more distance. And if he does, he can continue on the Triple Crown Trail with him. They paid over $400,000 in the Mary Lou Whitney John Hendrickson dispersal that took place. I feel bad for my friend Norm Cassidy losing this horse. It was just an unfortunate set of circumstances. But this horse might be really good. I don't just think it was a sloppy track. This horse has got a lot of ability. I just wonder about the distance. And if he's 5-2, like the morning line, I would bet him. But I think he's going to be 8-5 or less in this race. He's just got such, a 9-length win, the 83 Beyer, Rick Dutrow. Doesn't it just
Forward
feel like?
position.
And it may be right. He may just be the best horse in this race.
Well, and I think bet off the tote board last time indicates that he's a horse that people thought was going to run the kind of race that he did. So I think that how short of a price he was last time, now this is a much tougher group than he faced in his maiden win.
And a different
but
set of circumstances.
clearly, he's a horse that can take some money when people think he's going to run
I
well.
think he's going to be short. I might be wrong about that. Why don't you tell us about Global Steve?
I really like this horse's first 2 races, and I think that in a way, they were trying to just sort of see what they had with him, because in his last start where he was still able to win that Parks Future Star Stakes, he broke okay. He was towards the outside. He was actually taken back to last and then guided over to the inside where he rushed up to be in that stalking type of position towards the rail. And that's sort of a copy-paste of what we saw from his debut, where he broke a little bit slower and then ended up in that same rushing up position towards the inside. So rail draw doesn't bother me by any means. I just thought that he was one that had done some running at each point of his 2 races where he breaks and he's either taken back or a little bit slower. He ends up making that move into contention towards the inside, and he won by open lengths in his first race, and then he was able to still get the victory in his second race. And looking at his debut, 9 horses have run back, 5 have improved or run the same number, 2 of them have won. I think that he's the one that is going to get the distance as well, being
Those
half to
Bucheros?
Cagliostro. Well, he's a half to Cagliostro.
Yeah, I know. He's still a Buchero, and that bothers me. I just think he's too slow, personally. I don't see how he's competitive on figures, but I respect Butch Reed. He'll be a price. Listen, he'll be more forwardly placed than my horse, Omaha, and I'm a little worried that Omaha is a bit of a plotter. But at the end of the day, he was the only horse that ran behind Cyclone State last time who wired the field. Now, maybe it was a case where the race just, sort of fell apart behind the leader, and he was the one running at the end. But he's run 2 faster figures going long. He ran well around 2 turns 2 races ago, so he's the horse that I'm most confident will have like the 1 1/8. And I think the 1 1/8 could move him forward. And I think there are questions about your horse and the 6 horse getting the distance. And I kind of want to take him at a little better price than Mo Quality, who I don't love his last race going longer. And I feel like this end up being a battle of attrition a little bit. This is going to be the last man standing. You obviously disagree. You're not a big fan.
I picked him last time. I liked him last time. I thought that outside of Cyclone State, the pace collapsed, and he was really able to just be with the flow of the race. He was the only one making a closing move.
Well, he
but
wasn't with the flow of the race. The winner wired the field, so be careful about
there was
that.
no one else that was able to stay on whatsoever in terms of being forward early, and he got some pace to close into. Whereas, yes, the winner wasn't coming back to anybody, and he was the one making that move. But is he going to get as much pace as he did in that race and here? I kind of wonder if that's going to be the case, and I just didn't really see it.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be a wicked fast pace, but I wonder a little bit if he's just a horse that might just be running at the end when the others really aren't. I don't love his chances, and I think the race goes through Captain Cook personally, but we'll see what happens in an interesting running of the Withers, which is points towards the Kentucky Derby, race number 8. Let's start out with a race they all come out of. Willow Bend, she's a little edgy. Everyone loves Linda and Proudfoot. I left Everyone Lives Linda in there because that path taken 16th, Paul, as we show the replay of the race, it's not really true.
It's
the
not
horse
that
just
bad.
couldn't really get through the hole. But what I will say is, you know, I still think the horse has enough back races to suggest she might be the interesting one in here. So I don't think she's impossible. This was a very funny race. You like Proudfoot out of it, who came back and basically won a
Well, that was
non-competitive
a paid
public
workout.
Right.
But, I mean, she's a little edgy. Ran the best race of the horses in this spot
I
because
agree.
she was one that if she took a little bit of pace pressure in the past, she was not brave whatsoever and she would just fold. But in that spot, the pace was contentious enough and
I
she
agree.
still hung in there until the end. And then she came back with an 89 buyer to win. And so I don't know that she's going to be running an 89 buyer and not be having any sort of contention in terms of forwardly placed horses in here. But I like that she actually hung around for once in that start 2 back. But I just thought that can we see it over and over
Well,
and over
she's
again?
now so fully exposed, right? And
Precisely.
David has her the favorite. Now, I thought Golden Degree was going to be a heavy favorite in here. I obviously misread that. Listen, she's a little edgy, runs her last race. She's going to win. I agree with you. I thought she's a little edgy, ran really well also. That was why I wasn't thrilled with the others and why I took Everyone Loves Linda, who I thought could improve a little bit off that. I don't love being claimed away from Linda Rice, but she's run well for Linda and other trainers. Why do you like Proudfoot?
I just thought that running that well, coming off of her time away, to be in that photo where she had an extensive layoff prior to that, she's one that she's been able to be competitive with these types in the past. I like when she's a little bit more forward in some of her races, and that confidence building win last time was just reading the condition book well for her to not be in for the tag in that spot. So now cutting back in distance, I wonder if that might dull some of the forward position she can have, but she's one she's drawing well towards the outside, and you don't often see horses that are in that 3-way photo where one of them is in the middle and still able to be involved in some way. So I thought that she was the one that was tactical in here and that she was the one that could adapt depending on what they do early on.
Okay. I don't have a strong feel in this race, but as we look at Sunday Girl's last race, I know that if you're betting on Sunday Girl in this race, you really need to reevaluate things. I mean, this is at least the third horse to come back off a super gold rail trip. Now, I have some disagreements with friends of mine. I don't know that Magic 8 Ball was really wholly the only reason that entry was 4 to 5 yesterday. But obviously, anybody betting Magic 8 Ball is going to lose a lot of money at the racetrack because you're betting horses that ran ridiculous races on one of the biggest biases we've ever had at a racetrack.
Precisely.
And we saw that other goofy horse come back and not run a step. Starts with an M, I think.
Muazra.
Whatever, something like that. Anyway, the thing is, she's okay, but she's not an 88 buyer horse,
And she's
she's
not
not a
fast
horse
enough.
that's fast enough to be competitive here.
Right.
And the only reason she ran that was her trip last time. Whereas a horse like Golden Degree, she's run some fast races, and we'll take a look at. I think I'm going to show her last race. She finished second, but she finished second going a mile against Julia Shining, who clearly has gotten her decent form back. She won at 6 the race before that. Now, to be fair, it may have been that Inside Speed was good on October 4th. So her performance could be a little dressed up 2 races back. So she is a little horse that's a little bit suspect in that respect. But I started bunching all the horses together from that one race. I can't take the 2 who as a phony race, and you're only left with Golden Degree. So I fall into Golden Degree as the one I want on top of this race. But we'll see. Maybe the horses coming out of that other race are just a little bit better, at least some of them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a compact group, but you could make a case for, I think, pretty much everyone except for Sunday Girl being fast enough.
I agree, and some will like Sunday Girl. She's 9-2 on the line. We think that is a foolish move. Race number 9's a funny race because There's absolutely no speed in race number 9, and the two most logical horses are the 8-5 favorite on the outside, who probably couldn't get a quarter as fast as you and I could get it, and Portos. And we'll look at Portos running second last time, and we'll look at Helium, who finished 5th in that race. My problem with Portos is, how did he not win this race?
I have lots of problems with Portos, and being so far back as he will be is one of them for sure. Street swag, tough to make sometimes. He has some races that put him
He did
to
run
be
well here.
competitive. He did run well in this spot. I
Look
agree.
at him. He couldn't. He just like
He's a plotter.
just
He's a
hanger,
plodding
too.
type,
I mean, he
and-
couldn't even. He was losing ground to him at the end.
Yeah. Look, I don't love him. I don't love that he's going to be a short price and he's going to be pace compromised. But when I looked at the horses that I thought would be forward in this race, I really didn't want any of them on top either.
Well, I agree. I don't want Badlands Ruler.
I don't want
But
Jansen.
that's why I took Helium, because I felt like Helium at least was forward in that race last time. Believe me, I don't love Helium. Just like you don't love
The
Portos
former
in
Tampa Bay
here.
Derby contender.
Yeah, he won the Sam Davis, right? Or did he win the Sam
No,
Day
he won
Derby?
the Tampa Bay Derby. My
He
mistake,
ran. The,
yeah.
He actually didn't even run that Valley of the Derby. I think he ran 8th or something.
Yes, you are
That was the
absolutely
Medina
correct.
Spirit Derby,
it
right?
sure was, and he was forward in
He
there
finished
as well.
ahead of Highly Motivated in there.
Wow.
I know.
Do you
Not-
think he has a plaque hanging on his stall?
I think
He's
he's,
highly
he's-
motivated.
He's quietly proud of that.
Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby winner.
I don't love this horse, but I started looking and I thought, is there any mildly forward horse in this race I can take?
Yep.
Because I cannot take the 3 and 8 as plotters
Yep.
in here at short prices, and they may run
I don't
1,
blame you.
2, and it might just be a case that they get the distance and nobody else really wants it. Nobody's that good, but I thought, you know what? At least Helium be closer, and I did not like the prospect of picking the 3 or 8 as well. What's your because the night story? Why a 4th?
He's going to be more forward than the other two that are short prices. I didn't love Helium, and so I just went with a horse that at least he comes out of a race that Portos was in. He's run okay, not really well enough to compete with what we see.
for Mike Maker.
Sure, but he's going to be in a better position early on,
He's a
and
big
that's
price
really
there.
it.
I got him 4th as well, but I had him 4th because I had nobody else to pick 4th. Thanks a lot, Sarah. Sarah will be on America's Day at the Races later on the show. Going to start out with Greg and I and an assorted cast of characters around the country as we're covering Tampa and Oaklawn and, of course, Aqueduct. Head on over to Naira Bets. If you're not a member, use the promo code BONUS200 and we'll match the $200 of your initial deposit. Yeah, I can make that basket with all the practice I've had.
You know it's going to be a good
4
day.
feet away. Track Stats, check out Track Stats when you're at Naira Bets as well. We also have a money back guarantee, bet $10 to win and opt in, the Holy Bull, the Robert Lewis, Bob Lewis, and the Withers, or the Withers. Got to run second or third, get your money back. Cross Credit Pick 5. 2 stakes at Tampa, bookended on the turf. Fun races, toboggan here, and the 5th and 6th at Oaklawn. All those races will be on America's Day at the Races, which I believe is from, there you go, 12 to 2 on FS1, 2 to 5 on FS2. You got an opinion in the Holy Bull?
I want to see how Ferocious runs, but no big opinion on who's going to win.
Yeah, I'm wondering if today is the day. First of all, they should send to Ferocious. They should be aggressive.
He needs to
with
be
him.
aggressive finally. See
Second
what
of all,
happens.
Today is the day where either the bandwagon continues or it finally comes to a crashing halt, because he was the most hyped horse off of a wet track win at Saratoga we had all summer, and in a lot of ways has been the biggest disappointment. It's not that he's been bad, but he has not been anywhere near the hype that he got.
Right.
He's got to start delivering.
He needs to prove it, because you could say he's had some excuses, but he needs to show up today and stop having these excuses and just get into a better position early on.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Tappan Street does, as well as his stablemate who's running in the Swale. Did you notice something interesting about the 3 big guns in this race?
I didn't tell me.
They cost $1.3 million, $800,000, and $1 million. The 2, 3, and 4, the biggest 3
yeah?
favorites in here, are all incredibly expensive horses. So sometimes expensive horses do pan out. Sarah, thanks again. Chris Griffin's up next with a reprise. The Scratches and Changes. Have a great day.
Horse racing? Check. Weekly promotions? Got 'em. Huge payouts? You bet. With Naira Bets. Download the app today and bet on any track, anywhere, anytime, with live HD horse races, betting tips and tutorials, expert picks, and more. You bet with Naira Bets. Join now for a new member bonus at NyraBets.com.